Hey there guys, it's Miss H again, who's ready to make another piece of art. So you've already learned a little bit about Mr. Britto and all of his really fun colors and patterns that he uses in his artwork. Isn't he amazing? I love that Mr. Britto finds so much joy in different colors and patterns, and I also love how he talked about how he grew up in a kind of a hard situation with lots of people in his family and didn't have enough money to get paints and to even get paper, so sometimes he used finger painting, sometimes he painted on newspapers or on the streets, wherever he could find anywhere to paint. And so I think he's really cool and he's a big inspiration, and I think we can learn a lot from him. So I think it'd be fun right now if we can make a piece of art kind of like him. So I showed you guys some pictures of some fish that he created, some pieces of art that he made, drawing some different fish. And so we're going to do the same as him, and we're going to create a piece of art that looks a lot like what his does. So I'm going to give you some options along the way as you guys are creating. I'm going to draw two fish on my project so that you can see some choices of some different things you can do with your fish. And then I'm going to color mine using paint. But again, I'm going to give you some options in case you don't have some of the same supplies that I do. So let's talk about supplies. First thing you're going to need is a piece of paper, and it can be a bigger piece of paper if you want, or lined, to whatever kind of paper you have. And then the next thing you're going to need is a pencil, because we have to use a pencil to draw. To make our lines nice and thick like Mr. Britto, we're going to use a black marker. If you have a thicker one than this, that would be even more awesome, but this is all I have, so I'm going to teach you how to make it look a little bit thicker even if you don't have a thicker marker. And then for coloring today, I am going to use paint. This paint palette has been loved, can you tell? It's been used quite a bit. So these are neon tempera paints. You can use any sort of coloring medium. You can use crayons, markers, colored pencils, watercolor paint, tempera paint like I am, liquid paint, any kind of paint, okay? Any kind of coloring medium will work. Whatever you have at home is totally fine. Now, because these are dry, I'm also going to be using for mine a bucket of water with some brushes in it so that I can have some different choices of different size brushes. So those are the supplies that you need. Go ahead and gather whatever you have so that you can start creating this project with me. And remember, you can pause it anytime you need to catch up with me if you get a little bit behind. Let's get ready. All right, are you ready? We're gonna get started on our artwork. So like I told you before, I'm gonna draw two fish so that you can have some choices. You can draw two fish like I'm going to, or if you'd like, you could draw one big fish right in the middle of your paper. Either way is just fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with the body of the fish. If you noticed when you were looking at his artwork, some of the bodies were shaped sort of like a football, and some of them were a whole lot more like a circle. So you have two choices on the type of body shape that you want to do. So we're gonna do one like a circle and one like a football. So for this one down here, I'm gonna do it more like a circle. So notice I didn't close it off because I need to leave space for the tail, okay? And so over here, I'm gonna do this one more like a football shape. Again, I'm gonna leave space, an opening for the tail, okay? So if you notice too on the artwork that you looked at, all the tails are the shapes of triangles, okay? But they're really tall and pointy triangles. So what I'm gonna do is draw two diagonal lines that are going out like that, and then I'm gonna join them together. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Two diagonal lines, and then join them together. Mr. Britto also loved shapes. I'm sure you could tell that when you looked at his artwork. Now on all of Mr. Britto's fish, he put this curved line facing the front of the mouth. So because this one is facing this way, I made the curve the other way. And then you have an option back here in this tail area. On some of his fish, he would divide it into two spaces and put a pattern here and a pattern here. And on some of them, he would leave this whole space with one pattern. So I'm gonna do one like this and one like this. You decide which one you want to do. You also have choices with the eyes and mouth. So sometimes Mr. Britto just did a curved line attached to the front of the face for the mouth. And sometimes he drew big fish lips. So for this one, I'm going to erase a little bit at the front, and I'm going to pretend I'm drawing a sideways heart. Look at those big fish lips. And draw a line right down the middle, and you have yourself some really big fish lips. Now for the eyes, you also have some choices. Sometimes Mr. Britto just did the eyes like this to make it look like the fish's eye was closed. And sometimes he even added eyelashes. Sometimes he made a really big circle with a curved line to make a fish eye. You can choose whichever one you like the best. He also sometimes put fins on his fish, but sometimes he didn't. And if he did do them, sometimes they were curved, and sometimes they were like triangles. Now our fish are almost done, but I need to add some patterns. I'm not going to add any patterns up here by the face because Mr. Britto didn't do that in his artwork. He always put the patterns back by the tail. So remember, we looked at lots of different patterns that we could do. We talked about stripes, and these are diagonal stripes. We also talked about he loved so much polka dots. He put lots of polka dots in his artwork. And they can be all different size polka dots. Notice how some of my polka dots are going off the edge, so it looks like they're extending into the next space. Isn't that fun? And if you want, you could put a pattern in these, or you can leave them and just paint them one color. Now I'm going to do another pattern over here in this tail. One of the patterns that he created a whole lot of was checkerboard. So checkerboard is just doing lines going one way and then coming back the other way and crisscrossing those lines. Okay, now our fish are complete, but now we need to do the background. So a lot of times Mr. Britto would draw wavy lines in the background. But notice how my wavy lines aren't crazy wavy. We're doing just slightly wavy lines. And I'm only going to do 2. That way I've made 1, 2, 3 spaces to add patterns to in the background. So I'm going to do some up and down stripes down here in this bottom space. And notice how my patterns are really big and spaced apart. They're not really small and close together. And then right here in the middle, I'm going to do some swirls because sometimes he even put swirls in his artwork. Again, notice how big my patterns are. I think I'm going to do some hearts because Mr. Britto loved hearts. And sometimes I'm only going to do half a heart or even a bottom of a heart because I want to make it look like it is going into the next section. Now, I'm all done drawing with my pencil. Remember, if you need to pause to get caught up, you can certainly do that. Okay, your next step is going to be to take this black marker and we are going to trace all of our lines. start adding some paint. This is the most fun part. It's all finished. Doesn't it remind you of Mr. Britto's artwork with all the fun, bright colors and all the different patterns? Let's see if we can count how many patterns I used. I used hearts, 1, 2, I used checkerboard, 3 swirls, 4 diagonal stripes, 5 polka dots, and 6 vertical stripes. So I used 6 different patterns in my artwork, and they're all different. Isn't that fun? You can repeat the same patterns if you want to, but I think it's fun to try to use different ones. I hope you have fun making this Mr. Britto artwork like I did. Make sure you show a picture to your teacher because I know that she would love to see what you are creating. Talk to you later.